You've probably seen them everywhere, in factories, maybe even cleaning your living room floor, and definitely on planets like Mars. But the story of the robot, it didn't kick off with circuits and steel. Nope, it started 2,000 years ago with a myth. Today, we're going to trace that incredible journey, all the way from ancient dreams to the AI-powered machines that are literally changing our world as we speak.
So where do robots actually come from? It's a simple question, but the answer is pretty mind-blowing. Because long before we ever had the technology to build one, we had the imagination to dream one up. Their story doesn't start with lines of code. It starts with ancient legends.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start with that first spark of an idea in myth, then see how it got a name and its first real job. From there, we'll see robots blast off to new frontiers, check out the revolution that's happening right now, and finally, we'll take a peek at what's coming next. So let's rewind the clock, way back. Before the first gear ever turned, the whole concept of an artificial being was already taking shape. But it wasn't happening in a high-tech lab. It was happening in the stories people told around a fire. Just take a look at this timeline. It's kind of wild, isn't it? We go from pure myth in ancient Greece to the first real mechanical gizmos in the 13th century. Then things get quiet for a bit before the word robot is even invented in 1920. And just a few decades after that, the first real one clocks in for its first shift. Each of these points is a massive leap. So meet Talos. You could call him the original robot. According to the myth, he was a giant automaton made of bronze, built to patrol and protect the entire island of Crete. This guy is the perfect example of a really core human idea. Way before we had the engineering know-how, we were fascinated by the possibility. The dream of a machine that could move and act on its own has been with us for a very long time. And this is where myth starts to become reality. In the 13th century, an incredible engineer named Al-Jazari wasn't just dreaming, he was actually building. He created these amazing, intricate devices, like a 4-piece robot band that could play music on a boat, all powered by gears, levers, and water. This was it, the first tangible, physical step towards everything that would come later. Okay, so for centuries, these creations were basically cool one-off marvels. But when the 20th century hit, the whole idea of an automated worker suddenly went mainstream. It finally got a proper name, a set of rules, and even a spot on the assembly line. It was in 1920 that a Czech play gave us the name that stuck, robot. And it comes from the word robota, which basically means forced labor or drudgery. Think about that for a second. Right from its birth, the word itself defined our relationship with these machines. They were created to do the hard work for us. Of course, if you create artificial workers, the next question is pretty obvious. How do you make sure they behave? Well, decades before real engineers had to grapple with this, a sci-fi author named Isaac Asimov came up with a pretty elegant solution, the 3 laws of robotics. And here's the crazy part. Even though they were completely fictional, they basically became the blueprint for almost every real-world debate about robot ethics and safety that followed. Okay, you're gonna want to remember this year, 1956. This is the moment, this is the year the robot officially jumped off the pages of science fiction and landed right on the factory floor. It was a total game changer. And here he is, meet Unimate. Now, I know, it doesn't look like much, but this thing was the world's first programmable industrial robot. For the very first time, you could teach a machine a job, like welding car bodies or moving scorching hot metal, and it would just do it, perfectly, tirelessly. This wasn't just a new tool, it was a brand new type of worker that was about to completely transform manufacturing forever. So, the factory was conquered. The next big adventure for robots was to break out of that controlled environment and head out into the wild. And I mean, really wild. From the harshest places you can imagine to, eventually, our very own homes. Just think about it for a sec. What are the places humans just can't go? Deep space has got to be at the top of that list, right? So probes like Mariner and landers like Viking became our stand-ins. They were our eyes and our hands on other worlds. They worked flawlessly in these extreme conditions, proving that robots weren't just for factories anymore. They were explorers. So after conquering outer space, you'd think the next frontier would be something equally epic. But it was actually surprisingly close to home, our living rooms. Yeah, really. The 80s and 90s marked this huge shift in focus, away from giant industrial machines and towards smaller, personal robots designed to help us out with our daily chores. And the undisputed champion of this new movement? The Roomba, of course. When it came out in 2002, it was more than just a cool vacuum cleaner.
It was proof. It proved that people were totally ready to let a robot into their home, and they'd even pay for it, as long as it did a boring job for them. The Roomba didn't just clean floors. It kicked the door to domestic robotics wide open. Which brings us to right now, today. Robots are no longer some futuristic novelty or a tool you only find at a car factory. They are deeply, fundamentally integrated into our modern world. They're essential. And they're doing an incredible range of jobs. In our hospitals, the Da Vinci system lets surgeons operate with superhuman precision. Out in the field, robots are helping us grow food more efficiently. On our roads, self-driving vehicles are using AI to get around. And yeah, that smart speaker on your kitchen counter, it's a robot too. So, after all that, where does the story go from here? Well, the next chapter is being written as we speak, with some mind-bending concepts that are pushing the very definition of what a robot can even be. One of the biggest shifts happening right now is moving from isolation to collaboration. For decades, those big factory robots had to be kept in cages for safety. But the future is all about cobots, collaborative robots that are designed with all sorts of safety features to work right alongside people, no cage required. And it's not just how they work with us that's changing, it's what they're made of. There's this incredible new field called soft robotics, which is creating flexible, squishy robots. They're inspired by things like an octopus tentacle, which lets them handle delicate objects and interact with the world in ways a clunky metal robot never could. But really, the true engine driving this whole future is artificial intelligence. You can think of AI as the brain. It's what turns a machine from a dumb tool that just follows instructions into something that can actually learn from its surroundings and adapt on its own. AI is the key that unlocks that next level of robotics. So, from the ancient myth of Talos to collaborative robots powered by AI, this entire 2,000-year journey has been about closing the gap between our imagination and our reality. And that leaves us with one final, really exciting question. Now that our machines can not only work for us, but with us, side by side, what are we going to build together next?